My favorite quote from the book of John is God is love. God is love. My favorite quote. You know, in one of the other videos on this channel, I actually talked about the story of driving down the road with someone and them asking me why cars merged with me easily. And my response was, because I love driving. I love driving. Love it. And over the past 2 days, I've done 12 hours of driving. I love driving. Love it. And one of the things I like most about driving is, looking at the scenery around me as I drive. On my drive to Maryland, I was going from Akron, Ohio to Maryland, and I get to drive through the Appalachian Mountains. And on that roadway, I get to see old Victorian farmhouses and fields full of cows and horses, and I get to see the beautiful topography of those tree-covered mountains. And yesterday on the drive and the drive the day before, the sky was crystal blue, and that where those tree-covered mountains met the sky, it created this beautiful waving line. God, I love driving. I love driving. And the more I started watching that topography, I noticed that the shadows cast by the mountains into the valleys were creating these beautiful stripes, and it was a piece of natural art in front of me. And as I went along, I noticed the babbling brooks and the creeks and the streams, and loved how beautiful they were, loved seeing the boulders and the rocks, and thought of myself down in there and just was enjoying the concept of seeing this beautiful piece of nature, this beautiful natural art. I love driving. Love it. And when I'm driving down the road, I appreciate all the little intricacies of the various aspects of life around me. I love driving. When I'm looking around at all the cars that I'm on the road with, I notice that they're driving frantically. They're driving to get ahead of the other guy. They're in this battle for pole position. They're fighting to get around each other. Some of them driving erratically and dangerously around each other just to get in front and get in front of it. They're afraid of getting stuck behind a truck. They're afraid of not being that person who's in the lead and continually going faster than everyone else. They're afraid of that situation. I love driving. I was one of the slowest cars on the road. I was driving 5 miles over the speed limit and was being left in the dust because the world has gotten so frantic and so competitive. But I was loving driving. I was loving being in that space of enjoying the drive. Because I wasn't driving crazy and fast, I wasn't afraid of what was going on around me. I wasn't, anxious about the potential of harm. I wasn't, driving as if I was afraid of being less than the person in the car next to me. I wasn't afraid of that. The night before I took those drives, I went to bed in my room, and I like a cold room when I sleep, so my windows were open, and I was under a nice warm blanket, breathing in that nice cool air. I love sleeping. About 2 o'clock in the morning, right outside my window, 3 coyotes started singing in disharmony. They were out there, and they startled me from my sleep. And I went to the window and I said, "Move along." And they wandered back into the woods to the back of my property. I loved it. I had coyotes right outside my window. I loved that. It was wonderful. I climbed back into that bed and got underneath that warm covers, and I was so warm and comfortable, and I was like, that was coyotes. That was really cool. I loved it. Then I drifted off to sleep. I love sleep. those coyotes went off into the woods behind the house, and at the back of the properties, they had to pass. I have 3 crab apple trees back there. And there are days where I get to sit on that back porch with my cup of coffee and watch 4 or 5, sometimes 6 deer come out and eat the crab apples off the trees. And I walk out on the deck and they look at me and I say, "It's okay. It's okay." And they just ignore me and go back to what they were doing. And I sit down and I watch them eating these crab apples. And one of the neatest things is they'll stand up on their hind legs to get to the crab apples, and then they'll look at the other tree and they'll walk from the one tree to the other tree on their hind legs. I love it. I love seeing those deer out there just carefree eating crab apples. I love that. You know, in those woods behind those crab apples, I have a resident back there. He's an owl. And when I sit on that deck at dusk, he hoots at me. Hoot, hoo, hoo, right? And I hoot back. And we go back and forth for sometimes up to a half an hour, just talking back and forth at each other. I love that. I love it. It's wonderful. I love it. If I go out there during the daytime and I sit on that back deck, I have a friend who comes and visits me. He's a robin. And he always comes and he lands on the same branch about 10, 12 feet off the deck, and he tweets. And I tweet back. He tweets twice. I tweet twice. I tweet 3 times. He tweets 3 times. He changes the inflection of the tweet. I change the inflection to match. I change the inflection. He changes the inflection to match. This sometimes lasts 15 to 20 minutes. I love that. I love that interaction. Love is in every moment of your life. Love, there's an opportunity to love everything you're doing, everyone you're with, everyone you meet. Every experience can be an episode to love because of the growth it brings you. Every experience can be an opportunity to choose to look lovingly at it. Every opportunity, every minute of your day is a chance to love. God is love. God is love, and you have the ability to love. You have the ability to decide you can love. That's the greatest gift in the world, to know that you have the ability to take the magic wand of God and cast it upon your life, and cast it upon the people around you, and cast it upon your experiences. You can be in this world loving. You can live loving. And if you can stay in this world living and loving, you create a different world. You create a different experience. Every time somebody has a reaction out of fear instead of an action out of love, they're losing the concepts. They're losing the idea of who and what they are. They're giving their power away. You know, fear responses, fear reactions are a true separation from that love. But the second you can choose to be loving and to love the things you're doing and to love the places you are and to love the people you're with and to love the animals of nature and to love the trees and to love yourself. You know, I drive down the road and I look in the mirror and I've got a lot of gray hair in this beard and not a lot of hair on top of my head. I love the way I look. I'm really excited about my beard turning color, turning gray. I love the look of it. I love it. Somebody says to me, "Why don't you dye your beard?" I said, "Why? I earned every one of those gray hairs. I love each one. Love them." And the more you love who and what you are, you start to appreciate you. You know, this new work I'm coming back into, this work of talking my truth and speaking my truth and being my authentic self. I love it. It is so freeing. It is, you know, for years I was working in the corporate world, not able to speak my truth. And now I'm out here talking my truth fearlessly, loving what I do, loving you for being there to hear what I do, loving you for taking what I do and sharing it amongst others, loving you for the community that is being created, and to watch the loving gestures and comments between each other on these videos. God is love. You are already connected to the source. You are already delivering the source. It doesn't have to be big and esoteric. It's simple. It's in choosing to be love and to love what you're doing, love where you are. So today, what I'd like you to do is don't think deeply. I want you to take some time today. Just quiet your mind and look around at your life. Don't look for love. Don't look for fear. Don't look for anything. Just look around at your life. And then think, what can I be grateful for? What can I love? I tried this exercise one time years ago on a plane. And at the time I was married. And I was reading this exercise in a book. I can't even tell you what book it was at the time, but I set the book down on my lap and I just looked around and I realized I was sitting on a plane. And that I had the ability to sit on a plane. And I loved that. I loved the idea that I could get on a plane and travel, that I had the financial means to get on a plane and travel, that I could literally experience air travel. I was going somewhere that I really wanted to go, and I loved the idea of going there. So I had that moment. Then I realized I had my health, and I walked onto that plane, and I loved the fact that I could move and walk. I loved that. And when I looked at my surroundings and I looked at, where I was health-wise, I had no health issues at the time, and I was like, oh, I love them. I'm healthy. I really just sat there and I started to experience all these things that I was grateful for. And in that moment of really feeling what I was grateful for, I suddenly felt a hand grab my hand. And I realized I wasn't alone in that moment, and that there was something else to be grateful for. I had a loving partner at the time. Things change, things move, things adapt. And positive or negative, you can love it. Because the ones that are negative typically end up being the things that help us grow and help us find love again. God is love. Go out there and choose love today. Choose to love. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.